Batmania ran wild in 1989 with the release of Tim Burton's classic Batman, starring Michael Keaton as the Caped Crusader and Jack Nicholson as the Joker. The theaters also saw the release of hits such as Back to the Future 2, Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, Roadhouse, The Little Mermaid, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. On television, two of the greatest sitcoms of all time debuted, with Seinfeld on NBC and The Simpsons on Fox. Captain Lou Albano starred as Mario on the Super Mario Bros. Show. Nirvana released their debut album Bleach, while Motley Crue released their mega record Dr. Feelgood. But all this paled in comparison to what was happening in the World Wrestling Federation. The Mega Powers exploded, resulting in one of the greatest stories ever told. Join us on this trip as we journey back to the WWF in 1989. Hulk Hogan squared off with Akeem on the January 7th Saturday night's main event. Unfortunately for referee Dave Hebner, he was rendered unconscious after Akeem pulled him in the way of a running Hogan. This allowed the Big Boss Man to interfere and beat down Hogan with a nightstick. Watching backstage on a monitor were WWF World Champion Macho Man Randy Savage and Mean Gene Okerlund. Mean Gene questioned Savage as to why he wasn't on his way to the ring to help his Mega Powers partner. Savage brushed it off, saying Hogan's got everything under control. As the beatdown continued, Miss Elizabeth pleaded with Savage to help Hogan out. Elizabeth ran back to the ring as Hogan began to clean house. Just as he was about to drop the big leg drop on Akeem, Boss Man smashed Hogan on the back with a nightstick to cause a disqualification. The Twin Towers and Slick began to beat down Hogan, with Savage backstage still watching on the monitor. It took Boss Man putting his hands on Elizabeth to rile Savage up enough to run to the ring. Wielding a chair, Savage cleared the ring. Meanwhile, Elizabeth attended to Hogan, further angering Savage. Both Hogan and Savage competed in the Royal Rumble match. It was here that we saw serious signs of friction, as Hogan eliminated Savage from behind. Savage became irate, hopping back into the ring and getting physical with Hogan. Cooler heads prevailed, and the Mega Powers mended fences. Hogan continued in the Rumble, but was eventually eliminated by the Twin Towers. The following night in Toronto, Savage settled his feud with Bad News Brown, defeating him in a street fight. Savage battled Akeem on the January 28th Superstars, with the Big Boss Man getting involved to cause a disqualification. Hogan immediately rushed to the ring to even the odds and clean house. As Hogan celebrated Savage's victory, the Macho Man looked angry. Regardless, the Mega Powers were scheduled to face the Twin Towers on the February 3rd edition of the main event. The match scored a tremendous rating on NBC and featured one of the most famous angles in company history. During the match, Akeem pummeled the Macho Man, tossing him around like a rag doll and throwing him to the floor. In a scary scene, Savage's body was thrown onto the petite body of Miss Elizabeth, crushing her. Hogan panicked, racing over to check on the injured couple. Spontaneously, Hogan swooped up Elizabeth and marched her backstage to receive medical attention. This left Savage alone, further feeling the wrath of the Twin Towers. Back in the medical room, Elizabeth insisted that Hogan go back to help his partner. Hogan raced back to the ring and into his corner. Savage saw his opportunity to make the tag and did so by slapping Hogan across the face. Savage grabbed his championship and abandoned Hogan in favor of checking on Elizabeth. Meanwhile, a confused Hogan finished the match, picking up the win for the Mega Powers. Hogan raced to the medical room, where Savage berated him, accusing him of having lust in his eyes for Elizabeth. Meanwhile, Elizabeth wept openly, still incapacitated on the medical table. Hogan pled with Elizabeth to talk some sense into Savage, but it was too late. A jealous Savage clobbered Hogan with the championship and then punched him repeatedly. Hogan lay motionless, bloody, in a punching bag for an irate Savage. Elizabeth tried to stop Savage, but he viciously tossed her aside. Brutus the Barber Beefcake ran in to finally break things up, and officials filled the room shortly thereafter. WrestleMania 5 would once again emanate from Trump Plaza, with a major main event signed. The Mega Powers would explode as WWF champion Macho Man Randy Savage would face Hulk Hogan. In the weeks leading up to the bout, Savage made a series of accusations against the Hulkster. He claimed that Hogan had an ulterior motive all along, making him look like a fool. The champion went as far as to show video footage chopped up to match his paranoid thoughts. The footage made Hogan look guilty of trying to steal Elizabeth away. Hogan vehemently denied the claims, saying that the love he has for Elizabeth is like that of a sister. He went on to say that he has a similar love for Savage, but like that of a brother. Savage would say that he hated Hogan's guts and accused him of caring too much about grandstanding and hot-dogging. The once-hurt Hulkster was now sick of Savage's lies. The feud was personal, and the emotion created much anticipation for the eventual showdown. The question remained whose corner Miss Elizabeth would be in, considering she represented both clients. We'd find out the answer on the March 11th Saturday night's main event. Mean Gene interviewed Elizabeth on the stage, with her saying she'd be in neither man's corner. Savage was dumbfounded, questioning Elizabeth. Hogan made his way to the stage to confront Savage, with Elizabeth standing between the two. WrestleMania 5 took place on April 2nd, and Savage and Hogan stole the show. The Mega Powers exploded, and the two strongest forces in the WWF battled in epic fashion. Savage busted Hogan's forehead open with a flurry of punches. After gloating too much to the crowd, Savage slapped Hogan across the face, bringing the Hulkster to life. Hogan hoisted Savage high in the air and body slammed him over the top rope and to the floor. Hogan carried Savage on his shoulder and attempted to ram him into the ring post, but Miss Elizabeth stood in the way. This allowed Savage to wiggle free and shove Hogan into the ring post. Elizabeth attempted to help Hogan to his feet, but Savage dragged her away and intimidated her up the aisle. Savage then dropped a big double axe handle on a prone Hogan. Hogan was hurt, and Savage was ready to drop a flying elbow. Savage launched himself through the air and crashed onto Hogan, covering him. Miraculously, Hogan kicked out and hulked up, throwing 3 punches, hitting the big boot, and landing the leg drop. The referee counted 3, and Hulk Hogan was once again the WWF champion. Mean Gene interviewed Miss Elizabeth backstage at WrestleMania 5, with the footage airing on the April 10th Primetime Wrestling. She was interrupted by Sensational Sherry, claiming that the best man didn't win in the Hogan-Savage bout. Savage walked in and blamed Elizabeth for his loss, and then tried to slap her. Hogan ran in to make the save, but wound up taking a beating from a furious Savage. Savage and Sherry retreated while Hogan attended to Elizabeth. After Hogan had calmed down, he spoke with Mean Gene, claiming that the mania is stronger than the madness. Hogan went on to say that he's going to get revenge on Savage. Macho Man appeared on the Brother Love show on the April 15th Superstars. Savage claimed that Hogan never beat him at WrestleMania 5. He went on to say that he's done with Elizabeth, but he's not done with Hogan. Savage said that he'd found a new manager that would be loyal to him and not have wandering eyes. He even stated that his manager was more gorgeous than Miss Elizabeth. Out came Sensational Sherry. Brutus the Barber Beefcake appeared on the Brother Love show on the April 22nd Superstars. Beefcake voiced his disgust for the Macho Man choosing Sherry as his new manager. He went on to claim that Sherry was scary, leading the crowd in a "Scary Sherry" chant. Sherry interrupted, slapping Beefcake in the face. Savage attacked from behind, leading to a 2-on-1 beatdown. Sherry rummaged through Beefcake's bag and found a pair of clippers. As Savage restrained Beefcake, Sherry began to cut off the barber's hair. Miss Elizabeth remained in the picture. On the May 13th Superstars, Tony Schiavone interviewed Elizabeth, asking her if she would be a common fixture as the manager of Hulk Hogan. Elizabeth said, "As long as Hulk Hogan needs me, I'll be there." When asked about the threat of Savage and Sherry, Elizabeth replied, "Hulkamania will live forever." Hulk Hogan was about to make his silver screen debut in the WWF-produced motion picture No Holds Barred. Hogan's co-star was the menacing Zeus, who made his debut on the May 27th Superstars. Zeus appeared on the Brother Love show, with Brother Love hyping him as the real star of No Holds Barred. Later that night on Saturday night's main event, Hulk Hogan was scheduled to face the Big Boss Man in a steel cage match. Standing between Hogan and the cage and perched atop the ring steps was Zeus. He kicked Hogan in the chest and then pummeled him with dual hammer fists. Boss Man tormented Hogan inside the cage, taking advantage of the prior attack. Boss Man scaled the cage as Hogan gasped for breath, sprawled on the canvas. Just as Boss Man was about to hit the floor, Hogan reached through the bars. Grasping onto Boss Man's shirt, Hogan dragged him up the cage. The Hulkster proceeded to superplex Boss Man off the top of the cage and all the way to the canvas below. Slick attacked the referee on the floor and snuck into the cage, preventing Hogan from climbing over the top. Hogan pummeled Slick and stole a pair of handcuffs from him. Boss Man was left bloody and handcuffed to the top rope as Hogan scaled the cage and dropped to the floor. As Howard Finkel announced Hogan victorious, the Hulkster returned to bounce Slick off the bars of the steel cage. Mean Gene interviewed Zeus on the June 25th Wrestling Challenge. Macho Man Randy Savage and Sensational Sherry interrupted, gazing in awe at the sight of Zeus. Savage stated that he and Zeus had something in common. They both hate Hogan. They made a pact that whoever gets a hold of Hogan first would leave a little piece of him for the other. Savage and Sherry appeared on the July 8th Superstars. Savage claimed that Brutus the Barber Beefcake and WWF champion Hulk Hogan were dying to jump him. The Macho Man went on to announce that he has somebody to look over his left and right shoulder at the exact same time. Sherry went on to introduce Zeus. As Zeus seethed on the set, Savage officially challenged Hogan and Beefcake to face them in the main event at SummerSlam. The Macho Man faced Brutus the Barber Beefcake on the July 29th Saturday night's main event. Prior to the bout, Savage claimed that he had a big surprise for Beefcake. When the opportunity arose where Savage was in trouble, Sherry brought out Zeus. Beefcake applied the sleeper hold to Savage, bringing Zeus into the ring to break it up and cause a disqualification. Zeus squeezed Beefcake in a bear hug, which brought out Hulk Hogan. Hogan tried using his fists, but nothing could faze Zeus. Zeus and Savage continued the beatdown on Hogan and nearly cut his hair. The four men continued brawling, with Zeus reapplying the bear hug to Beefcake. Hogan smashed Zeus on the back with a chair, still not fazing him. Hogan and Beefcake wielded chairs, fending off Savage and Zeus. Jesse the Body Ventura interviewed Savage, Zeus, and Sherry backstage, with Zeus claiming that Hogan and Beefcake were nothing. Savage, Sherry, and Zeus appeared on the Brother Love show on the August 12th Superstars. Savage claimed that SummerSlam would be the end of the red and yellow. SummerSlam took place on August 28th, with Hogan and Beefcake facing Savage and Zeus in the main event. Prior to the match, Mean Gene interviewed Savage, Zeus, and Sherry backstage. They gathered around a bubbling cauldron, with Sherry claiming to see the destruction of Hogan, Beefcake, and Miss Elizabeth. The announcements were made, with Savage unhappy at the sight of Elizabeth in Hogan and Beefcake's corner. Savage and Zeus double-teamed Hogan for most of the match, with Hogan feeling the squeeze of Zeus's bear hug. Savage taunted Elizabeth at ringside, with the Hulkster preventing any harm. Zeus and Savage had their turn to pummel Beefcake, with things looking bleak for the fan favorites. Hogan fought back, finally knocking Zeus off of his feet. Sherry attempted to interfere, with Elizabeth tripping her up. Savage attempted to use the loaded purse on Hogan, but the Hulkster apprehended it, clobbering Zeus and hit him with a body slam. Hogan sealed the deal with a big leg drop to score the pinfall victory. Hogan delivered an atomic drop to Sherry, with Elizabeth whacking her with the loaded purse. Beefcake then cut off Sherry's long ponytail. As Savage and Zeus dragged Sherry away, Hogan posed with Sherry's ponytail on top of his head. Hogan, Beefcake, and Elizabeth then posed to end the show. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase had a WWF Championship opportunity on the October 14th Saturday night's main event. To ensure victory, he hired the human wrecking machine Zeus to be in his corner. Hogan remained unfazed, taking control early on in the match with DiBiase. As expected, Zeus got involved, tripping up the Hulkster behind the referee's back. With Hogan outnumbered, DiBiase gained control. Hogan eventually hulked up and had DiBiase where he wanted him. Zeus rolled into the ring and grabbed Hogan. DiBiase went for a clothesline, but Hogan moved and Zeus took the impact. The Hulkster rolled up DiBiase and scored the pinfall victory. Hogan and Zeus then circled one another, with DiBiase attacking the Hulkster from behind. DiBiase then ordered Zeus to wrench at Hogan's neck. With Hogan hurt, DiBiase applied the $1 Million Dream. Jake the Snake Roberts then ran in for the save, releasing Damien from his bag and clearing the ring. Survivor Series took place on November 23rd, with Hogan and DiBiase captaining opposing teams. Hogan was joined by Jake the Snake Roberts and Demolition, while DiBiase was joined by Zeus and the Powers of Pain. Roberts and Zeus stood alone in the ring, but Zeus screamed that he wanted Hogan. The crowd cheered as the Hulkster tagged in and stood toe-to-toe with the human wrecking machine. Zeus quickly gained the upper hand, choking Hogan. Unfortunately, Zeus refused to break the choke and shoved the referee away. This led to Zeus's disqualification, and Hogan left lying on his back. The action continued, coming down to Hogan and Roberts against DiBiase. Virgil interfered, jumping on the apron and distracting Roberts. This allowed DiBiase to attack Roberts from behind and eliminate him. Hogan gained his second wind, battling DiBiase and picking up the victory with a big leg drop. Backstage, Sean Mooney interviewed Macho King Randy Savage, Sensational Sherry, and the human wrecking machine Zeus. They hyped their big steel cage match on December 27th at the No Holds Barred pay-per-view. Their opponents were WWF champion Hulk Hogan and Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Mean Gene then interviewed Hogan and Beefcake backstage, only to be interrupted by Sherry. She threw powder in their eyes, bringing in Savage and Zeus to choke them out. Superstars filled the locker room to separate the four. The cage match occurred, with Hogan and Beefcake destroying Zeus and Savage early on. Zeus gained control, taking out Hogan and Beefcake while Savage climbed up the cage. Beefcake raced up the cage to prevent Savage from escaping, while Zeus continuously choked out the Hulkster. Savage felt the impact of a big right hand from Beefcake at the top of the cage, sending him crashing to the mat below. Savage fought back, eventually jumping off the top of the cage for a double axe handle. Beefcake met the Macho Man with a punch to the gut and escaped over the cage. Hogan pounded on Zeus, with Beefcake dragging Savage out of the cage. The Barber tried to re-enter, but Hogan insisted on finishing his war with Zeus. The Hulkster bounced Zeus off the cage multiple times, followed by 3 consecutive leg drops to score a pinfall victory. The Red Rooster faced Tito Santana on the July 7th Saturday night's main event. The caveat here was that the Rooster's manager, Bobby the Brain Heenan, wore a microphone at ringside, with the viewers hearing his advice from the corner. Rooster needed the advice, which he paid little attention to. A frustrated Heenan took his anger out on New York Yankees legend George Steinbrenner, who was sitting at ringside. Santana picked up the victory, setting off Heenan. An irate Heenan marched into the ring and slapped the Rooster in the face. The Rooster returned the favor, attacking Heenan, beating him from pillar to post. The Rooster appeared on the January 16th Primetime Wrestling, with Heenan asking for a truce. While Rooster went in for a handshake, Heenan slapped him across the face. From behind appeared enhancement talent Steve Lombardi, who attacked the Rooster with a stool. Heenan introduced Lombardi as his newest client, the Brooklyn Brawler. Rooster got his revenge on Heenan, defeating him in a bout at WrestleMania 5. The Brawler attacked Rooster from behind, with Heenan getting the last laugh. The feud was settled on the May 20th Superstars, with the Rooster defeating the Brawler. Strikeforce faced off against the Brainbusters at WrestleMania 5. Despite the double teaming, Tito Santana managed to hold his own, eventually tagging in partner Rick Martel. Santana charged at Tully Blanchard with his signature flying forearm. Blanchard ducked, causing Santana to connect with partner Martel. Unhappy about the mishap, Martel abandoned Santana and retreated to the back. The Brainbusters proved to be too skilled of a team for Santana to handle, picking up an easy victory with a spike piledriver. In May, Martel joined forces with the Doctor of Style Slick and soon became known as the Model. The two appeared on the Brother Love show on the July 1st Superstars, where they mocked Tito Santana. Santana had seen enough, interrupting the interview and brawling with Martel. At SummerSlam, Martel teamed with the Rougeau brothers to face Santana and the Rockers. The action was fast-paced, with Santana getting his hands on Martel. In the end, Martel scored a pinfall victory over Marty Jannetty. Rugged Ronnie Garvin defeated Greg the Hammer Valentine on the April 22nd Superstars. Following the bout, Tony Schiavone interviewed Valentine, who said he'd retire if he couldn't beat Garvin in a rematch. The following week, the career-ending match took place on Superstars. This time, Valentine reversed a small package to win the match. Due to the stipulation, Garvin's career was now over. Valentine gloated during a promo on the May 8th Primetime Wrestling. Garvin interrupted, announcing that he's the newest referee in the WWF. Garvin went on to become a no-nonsense official, often mixing it up with the Rule Breakers. Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase arrived at Betteridge Jewelers with Virgil in a vignette airing on the February 11th Superstars. DiBiase asked to speak with the owner, commissioning him to create a $1 million championship. The following week, DiBiase stopped by the shop, unhappy with the progress. He demanded the title be larger, with more gold and diamonds. Finally, on the February 25th Superstars, DiBiase viewed the completed championship, ecstatic with the results. The following week, DiBiase and Virgil appeared on the Brother Love show. DiBiase unveiled the championship, wearing it to the ring from this point forward. WWF Tag Team Champions Demolition began the year feuding with their former manager Mr. Fuji and the Powers of Pain. The feud culminated in a handicap match at WrestleMania 5, with Demolition successfully retaining their titles. Meanwhile, the Brainbusters and the Rockers began the year involved in a bitter rivalry. The Brainbusters received a title shot against Demolition on the May 27th Saturday night's main event. After a competitive brawl, the match resulted in a double disqualification. A rematch took place on the July 29th Saturday night's main event. This time, Andre the Giant was at ringside to assist his fellow Heenan family members. Andre passed Arn Anderson a chair, which he used to clobber Smash unconscious. The referee turned around and counted 3, making the Brainbusters the new WWF Tag Team Champions. Demolition received their mandatory rematch on the November 4th Superstars. This time they were successful, becoming 2-time WWF Tag Team Champions. Bobby the Brain Heenan formed the team of the Colossal Connection, comprised of Andre the Giant and Haku. Demolition defended their titles against the Connection on the December 30th Superstars. Andre and Haku double-teamed Axe behind the referee's back, with Andre hitting an elbow drop for the victory. The Colossal Connection became the new WWF Tag Team Champions. The first Royal Rumble pay-per-view took place on January 15th, and was the first time that the Rumble match featured 30 superstars. During the bout, Jake the Snake Roberts brought Damien into the ring, with Andre the Giant eliminating himself to get away. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase purchased number 30, but it wasn't successful. The winner of the Rumble match was the returning Big John Studd. Andre the Giant and Bobby the Brain Heenan appeared on the Brother Love show on the January 21st Superstars. Love had a bag with a snake in it to prove that Andre wasn't afraid. Andre began to get antsy, with Heenan frantically whispering something to Love. Love covered up for Andre, confirming that he was not afraid of anything. Jake the Snake Roberts appeared on the Brother Love show 2 weeks later. Love tried to convince Roberts that Andre wasn't afraid of snakes, but everyone knew better. Roberts took Damien from his signature green bag and scared off Brother Love. Vince McMahon moderated a face-to-face debate between Andre the Giant and Jake the Snake Roberts on the February 18th Superstars. This was to hype their big match for WrestleMania 5. Bobby the Brain Heenan stood in Andre's corner, using his sharp tongue to hype the bout. Roberts revealed that the special guest referee would be Big John Studd, which was fair because neither man particularly liked him. Mean Gene interviewed Andre and Heenan on the March 11th Superstars. They warned Studd not to get in their way at WrestleMania 5. That night on Saturday night's main event, Heenan's client Ravishing Rick Rude faced Brutus the Barber Beefcake. Andre came to Rude's aid during the bout, choking Beefcake behind the referee's back. This brought out Roberts, who suffered a sneak attack by Rude. Andre and Rude took turns pounding on Roberts. Beefcake managed to subdue Rude, but Andre proved to be far too much to handle. Out came Big John Studd, approaching Andre fearlessly. Roberts threw Damien into the ring, scaring Andre away. Andre and Roberts squared off on April 2nd at WrestleMania 5. Studd donned the referee stripes, calling the match right down the middle. Andre dominated the start of the bout, with Roberts getting little offense in. Roberts attempted to release Damien, with Studd preventing him. With his back turned, Andre hit a splash on Studd. Studd turned around quickly, shoving Andre. While Studd laid down the rules to the Giant, $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase attacked Roberts from behind. DiBiase grabbed the bag containing Damien and retreated up the ramp. While Roberts raced to reclaim Damien, Andre attacked Stud from behind, choking him with his singlet strap. Roberts returned to the ring, releasing Damien. Andre retreated, with Stud raising Roberts' arm in victory via disqualification. Roberts and DiBiase were scheduled to face off on the May 6th Superstars. Come match time, Roberts was the only one standing in the ring. Tony Schiavone interviewed DiBiase backstage, who claimed to be sick. With a heating pad on his shoulder and fighting through a cough, DiBiase sent Virgil to face Roberts. Roberts not only won the match, but he stole the money out of Virgil's pocket and threw it to the fans. A healthy DiBiase attacked Roberts from behind and applied the $1 Million Dream. DiBiase shoved money down Roberts' throat and dragged a defeated Virgil away. DiBiase and Virgil appeared on the Brother Love Show on the June 24th Superstars. With Roberts on the shelf with an injured neck, DiBiase claimed we'd never see Jake the Snake ever again. Dino Bravo challenged WWF Intercontinental Champion The Ultimate Warrior to a feat of strength on the November 11th Superstars. Mouth of the South Jimmy Hart backed Bravo and said that they'd pick someone in the audience to sit on each of their backs, and whoever could perform more push-ups would be declared the winner. Hart pointed out a rather large man who made his way to the ring. With the man sitting on his back, Bravo managed to do several push-ups. It was now Warrior's turn. Warrior took the push-up position, but the large man crashed down onto his back. The man joined Bravo in laying a beatdown on the Warrior. It was all a ruse. This man was aligned with Bravo and Hart. He was eventually named Earthquake. Vignettes began airing in June to hype the debut of the American Dream Dusty Rhodes. Rhodes appeared portraying jobs such as a pizza delivery driver, working at a gas station, riding on the back of a trash truck, working as a plumber, and even working as a butcher. He made his debut on the July 22nd Superstars, saving an enhancement talent from a beatdown at the hands of the Big Boss Man. Dusty bullied the bully and stole his nightstick. Rhodes went on to face Akeem on the November 19th Wrestling Challenge. Akeem would get counted out after he and Slick argued with a Dusty Rhodes fan at ringside. That same fan was in attendance on the November 25th Saturday night's main event, as Rhodes squared off with the Boss Man. Slick jaw-jacked with the Rhodes fan at ringside, distracting Boss Man. This allowed Rhodes to roll up Boss Man and score the pinfall victory. The Rhodes fan joined him in the ring and danced to celebrate a big victory. That fan would go on to become Rhodes' manager. Her name? Sapphire. At the Royal Rumble, WWF Intercontinental Champion The Ultimate Warrior and Ravishing Rick Rude competed in a super pose down. With Bobby the Brain Heenan in his corner, Rude used a steel flexing rod to amp up his physique. It didn't win the crowd over as they roared for the Ultimate Warrior, flexing proudly. A jealous Rude attacked Warrior from behind, clobbering him with the steel flexing rod. The February 18th Superstars featured a face-to-face debate between Warrior and Rude. Moderated by Vince McMahon, Rude and Bobby the Brain Heenan barely had a chance to make a point before Warrior chased them off the set and destroyed their podium. Warrior challenged WWF Champion Macho Man Randy Savage on February 20th in Madison Square Garden. Ravishing Rick Rude interfered, costing the Warrior the match. It was soon announced that Rude would receive a shot at Warrior's Intercontinental Championship at WrestleMania 5. Warrior defended the championship against Rude at WrestleMania 5 in Trump Plaza. Heenan played a huge role in the outcome of the bout. Warrior lifted Rude high up for a suplex, but Heenan grabbed a hold of the champion's leg. Rude dropped a top Warrior, with Heenan holding down the Warrior's leg. The referee counted 3, and Rude was awarded the WWF Intercontinental Championship. While Rude escaped, Warrior got his hands on Heenan, injuring him with a gorilla press slam. With Heenan by his side and the Intercontinental Championship around his waist, Rude gloated for months about his victory over the Warrior. However, Warrior would retaliate on the June 24th Superstars. After Rude defeated an enhancement talent, Heenan found a woman in the crowd to receive an intimate kiss from the champion. Warrior rushed the ring, ruining the kiss and attacking Rude. The two faced off in a big rematch at SummerSlam. During the bout, Rowdy Roddy Piper made his way to ringside and mooned Rude. This allowed Warrior to gain the advantage and defeat Rude with a big splash to become a 2-time WWF Intercontinental Champion. For weeks during the summer, Bobby the Brain Heenan threatened he'd leave primetime wrestling. Heenan bickered back and forth with Gorilla Monsoon each week until the Brain reached his breaking point. On the July 10th Primetime Wrestling, Heenan quit and announced he'd debut his own show next week. The first edition of the Bobby Heenan Show took place on July 17th. He was joined by his co-host Jameson, a dim-witted nerd with the mental capacity of a hamster. The show ran for 4 weeks, featuring guests such as an 83-year-old stripper, a belly dancer, and a hypnotist. The final episode took place on August 7th and featured adult film star Heather Hunter, who flashed Heenan and caused the show to be yanked from the USA Network. Replacing Heenan on Primetime Wrestling was Rowdy Roddy Piper. Piper had returned to the company at WrestleMania 5, conducting a special Piper's Pit with Brother Love and controversial talk show host Morton Downey Jr. Downey puffed on his cigarette, despite Piper asking him numerous times to stop. Piper was pushed over the deep end after Downey blew smoke into the hot rod's face. Piper grabbed a fire extinguisher and sprayed it at Downey, getting the last laugh. With Piper in studio and Heenan's show canceled, a problem arose. Heenan was looking to get his post back on prime time, while Piper was comfortable right where he was. Things were further complicated on the August 28th prime time when Heenan invited Ravishing Rick Rude onto the set. This led to a war of words between Piper and Rude. The two eventually brawled, leading to a slew of officials pulling them apart. The following week, Heenan joined Monsoon in Studio A, while Piper joined the show from Studio B. Piper appeared on the Brother Love show on the September 9th Superstars. The Hot Rod carried a hygiene bag, claiming that Love could use a lesson in hygiene. Piper shoved dental floss down Love's throat, followed by a toothbrush, and then proceeded to cover him with shaving cream. Heenan interrupted the segment, begging Piper to leave Brother Love alone. Rude snuck up behind Piper with a bottle of mouthwash and threw it into the Hot Rod's eyes. Piper was left blinded, with Rude capitalizing on the opportunity. Rude spit mouthwash into Piper's eyes, again blinding him. Officials rushed the scene and restrained Piper, while Rude made a quick exit. The mind games were amped up on the September 24th Wrestling Challenge. Upon defeating an enhancement talent, Rude was greeted by a beautiful woman whom Heenan had picked out to receive a kiss. After 2 attempts, the woman was left unsatisfied, leaving the ring and putting Rude in an uproar. The following week, Piper was in action on Wrestling Challenge, defeating Barry Horowitz. Following the bout, Piper called out the same woman from last week that wasn't impressed by Rude. Piper planted a big kiss on her, leaving her smiling on the mat. Piper and Rude fought on September 30th in Madison Square Garden. With tensions high, The two brawled on the floor, resulting in a double countout. Piper appeared on the Brother Love show on the November 25th Superstars. He came out carrying a long rope, dragging it closer to reveal someone under a sheet. Under the sheet was a bound and gagged Brother Love, wide-eyed and terrified. To make matters worse, Love was dressed only in a diaper. Rude appeared on the Brother Love show 2 weeks later on Superstars. He stuck up for his friend Brother Love and vowed to make the Piper pay. The culmination of the feud came on December 28th in Madison Square Garden. Contested inside a steel cage, Piper and Rude pulverized each other. Piper bounced Rude's face against the cage, busting him open in the opening minutes of the match. The brawling continued, with both men climbing over the cage side by side. Both men dropped to the floor at the same time, with the match ordered to continue. The brawling continued, with Rude pulling out all the stops, leaping off the top of the cage and landing fist first on the forehead of Piper. Rude once again climbed to the top of the cage. This time, Piper shook the cage, causing Rude to fall crotch first on the edge of the cage. Rude hung backwards, dangling in mid-air. Piper attempted to exit through the door until Heenan swung the cage door in Piper's face. Heenan passed a pair of brass knuckles to Rude until Piper apprehended them and knocked Rude out with a right hand. Piper walked through the door to pick up a hard-fought victory. Hacksaw Jim Duggan defeated King Haku on the May 13th Superstars to become the new king of the WWF. The following week, a coronation was held, with Big John Studd putting the crown atop Duggan's head. Haku tried to steal the crown on the June 3rd Superstars. With the help of Andre the Giant, Haku beat down Duggan. Big John Studd ran to the ring to make the save and fend off Andre. With one punch to the stomach, Andre fell through the ropes and to the floor, leaving Studd standing tall. Duggan defended the crown against Macho Man Randy Savage on the September 23rd Superstars. With a little help from Sensational Sherry, Savage defeated Duggan to win the crown. A coronation was held for Savage the following week on Superstars. The Genius read a poem declaring Randy Savage the Macho King. $1 Million Man Ted DiBiase presented Savage with a solid gold scepter. When all was said and done, Savage and Sherry sat atop a wooden throne, carried away by 6 servants. Andre the Giant and Bobby the Brain Heenan appeared on the Brother Love show on the July 29th Superstars. Heenan promised that Andre would put a stop to the Ultimate Warrior. Warrior interrupted the segment, snatching the microphone from Brother Love. Standing up to the Giant, Warrior vowed that he would successfully defeat Andre. Warrior continued his path of destruction, defeating an enhancement talent on the August 26 Superstars. Warrior carried his opponent's defenseless body up the aisle until Heenan emerged from the locker room. With Warrior distracted, Andre snuck up behind him and choked him out. Warrior defended his Intercontinental Championship against Andre on the October 28th show in Madison Square Garden. In the blink of an eye, Warrior ran into the ring, knocked down Andre, and hit the big splash for a quick pinfall victory. The feud was featured in the main event of the Survivor Series. Warrior captained a team consisting of the Rockers and Jim the Anvil Neidhart to face Andre's team consisting of Haku and the Brainbusters. By the time the match took place, Tully Blanchard was out of the company. His replacement for Survivor Series was none other than Bobby the Brain Heenan. Warrior eliminated Andre immediately by countout, knocking him to the floor and rendering him unconscious. The action whittled down to Warrior against Heenan. Predictably, Warrior destroyed Heenan and became the sole survivor. Warrior and Andre squared off on the November 25th Saturday night's main event. The action quickly got out of control, with Heenan getting involved to cause a disqualification. Warrior battled back, clearing the ring and standing victorious. The year even featured a brief appearance by the Widowmaker, Barry Windham. On the October 7th Superstars, the Genius appeared on the Brother Love Show. He introduced his new client, Mr. Perfect. This proved to be a successful alliance for the Genius, who received a WWF Championship match against Hulk Hogan on the November 25th Saturday night's main event. Mr. Perfect attacked Hogan on the floor behind the referee's back, whipping him with the championship. An injured Hogan lay motionless on the floor, with the Genius picking up a huge victory via countout. Meanwhile, Mr. Perfect stole the WWF Championship and smashed it with a hammer backstage. Later, Hogan cut an emotional promo over the broken pieces of his championship, vowing revenge on Mr. Perfect. Did Mr. Perfect get the best of Hogan, or will Hulkamania continue to run wild in the 90s? Find out next time on Squared Circle History.